The following podcast may be disturbing to those who support hatred, terrorism, anti-Semitism, and discrimination. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ILF podcast, How We Fought Against. My name is Arsen Ostrovsky, and I'm the CEO of the International Legal Forum. We're delighted to have with us here today Dr. Ariel Gelblung, who has been a leading force in the fight against anti-Semitism and Holocaust distortion in Latin America. Ariel is the head of the Simon Wiesenthal Center's Latin America office. The Wiesenthal Center, of course, is named after none other than Simon Wiesenthal himself, and you can see behind Ariel, which has really today become legendary organization, a Jewish organization, a civil society organization, fighting racism, fighting anti-Semitism, fighting terror, and really promoting human rights and peace, not just in Latin America where Ariel is based, but certainly around the world. Thank you, Ariel, who is a graduate of the University of Buenos Aires. He's a lawyer. He has been head of the Wiesenthal Center in Latin America's office since 2015, and during that time, he really has done incredible things, being a leading voice in promoting the IHRA Definition of Antisemitism, which we'll talk about, which is done so successfully across the political echelon, the sporting field, and very important and crucially also in the education field as well. And as he will be here with us today, sharing really some of his tremendous successes and also what we can learn from that elsewhere, and how we move forward in the fight against this hatred. Ariel, thank you so much for being with us here today, and thank you for your, not just for all your efforts, but certainly for your time. Really looking forward to this discussion with you. So welcome once again.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for this presentation. It's so nice.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Ariel, look, I have a lot of questions, and I feel like in so many ways there's not enough information about Latin America that we know. There is a lot that is happening. It's really an important hub of not just of life in the Jewish community, and with such incredibly rich and storied history, but also today as we're dealing with issues of anti-Semitism and terror and BDS as well. So it's a very important area, and it's something that I think we, and I'm talking about in a collective field, those who are active in the fight against BDS, anti-Semitism, and those issues that need to be more aware of. And so it'd be fantastic to hear from your experiences and expertise. But I wanted to start, perhaps, if you can maybe put the situation in Argentina in context about what is happening on the ground. I mean, I saw some figures recently, if I'm not mistaken, from 2019, that really said that there's been a very large, if not double, increase in number of anti-Semitic incidents, but specifically also online as well, online hatred. So perhaps you can give us a bit of an overview of not just the situation on the ground in Argentina where you are, but more broadly speaking in Latin America as well.
Okay. Latin America is a large region, and we have different situations in every country. You have to know that we have the classic anti-Semitism, like in every part of the world. The online anti-Semitism increased during the pandemic. Every conspiracy theory involved Jews. We have here in the region two places that we have to look into with special attention about anti-Semitism. The first one is Chile. Chile has everything's ready for the perfect storm. We have there classic anti-Semitism, modern anti-Semitism, BDS, the largest Palestinian population outside the Arab world, with 3 350,000 people, or 400,000, and the small Jewish community, 15 or 20,000 people. They are 20 times bigger. They are with a lot of influence, and they have action in the parliament. So, and at this moment, we have that if elections for president were today, the candidate, the best candidate for presidents is a guy who's communist, who is from Santiago, from the capital. He is descendant from Palestine, and he's anti-Semitic, declared anti-Semitic. His name is Daniel Jadwe, and he says that he has nothing against Jews, but yes against Zionists. But the Jewish community is a Zionist community, so they are all foreign agents from other countries. They are not Chileans, and they have everyone have to fight against them. The anti-Israel feeling is very deep inside the people. They celebrate the Nakba in the parliament, so we are worried about this, and they have no legislation.
Can I ask you?
Sorry, and they have no legislation against discrimination.
I wanted to ask you, from your perspective, why has the situation become as serious as it is? I think you partly answered it because there is no legislation for discrimination. Is there any willpower within the legal world in Chile, within the political or even civil society, to recognize the problem, the issue with anti-Semitism, and to take action?
They officially don't recognize the problem. And they have 400,000 votes. So from the right and from the left, nobody sees that, or they don't want to see it. So I say that every democracy is as strong as they protect their minorities. And in this case, Chile is not protecting enough Jews. The second place is, Venezuela. Venezuela used to be a large Jewish population. Now has the 25% of who they were, but is a basis for Iran influence in the region. They are open to Iran, and you can see Iran from supermarkets from Iran, and markets, and we denounce with our director of international relationship, Dr. Shimon Samuels. We denounced that the former vice president of Venezuela gave 150 passports from Venezuela to Hezbollah agents. So they can be in every place in the region with Venezuela's passport. So this is other thing we have to worry about. Together with this, in the other places of this continent, you can live very well as a Jew, and you can have an open Jewish life. We had in Argentina 2 major terrorist attacks in 92 to the Israeli embassy, and 94 to the AMIA, Jewish Mutual Organization. But you can live here as a Jew openly. You can be like we have a Jewish comedian is the first in selling tickets and he says he's a Jew, and he makes jokes about this, and he can be with this. Kosher restaurants, you can be with a kippah at the street and with no problems.
Has BDS managed to make any inroads in Argentina?
No, unfortunately, not.
Why do you think that is?
We had a few incidents with the BDS. The most known incident was they managed to boycott a football match between Argentina and Israel before the World Cup in Russia. But this was one isolated incident with BDS. It's not so big here in Argentina.
Okay. I appreciate that sort of putting that in context, and it's good to know that, you know, at least in Argentina, it's, you know, one of the most, certainly I think, having been there myself a number of years ago and seeing it firsthand, what a you know, incredibly, I think, thriving Jewish community there is. There's certainly not a history when it comes to Jewish people in Argentina, but there's certainly a very large, very open, I think, community that is proudly Zionist as well, which is wonderful to see, certainly in Latin America, not just anywhere else, but certainly in Latin America as well. Ariel, I wanted to ask you specifically regarding the IHRA, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, which is very much you know, a hot topic across so many parts of the world, in Europe, UK, of course, in North American campuses. And you have had, with Simon Wiesenthal Center, some really tremendous and I think really historic successes. You know, Argentina was a member of IHRA that actually adopted the definition in full when that definition was first released a number of years ago, and has since become the second country in Latin America in order to adopt it. But something which you are very much leading the effort, leading the charge, was, I understand, a year ago in the University of CUJO. I hope I pronounced that correct this time.
Perfect.
Perfect. Fantastic. In which you led the, you know, there were some instances of some really vicious anti-Semitic incidents, and you led a very successful effort to have the university adopt the definition of anti-Semitism according to IHRA, becoming the first body within Argentina to do so. So I would love
within the continent, in all Americas.
Within the continent. So I would love to hear from you, I suppose, the process in which you went about that. How is it that you convinced the authorities of the importance of this definition, and finally, you know, the process in terms of agreeing, for them agreeing to actually adopt it and take action, because it's a fantastic success and something, as we're seeing this battle rage on campuses around the world, in America, North America, not far from you as well. It's something I think that can be really learned by other communities as well. So I'd love to hear from your experience in this particular regard.
Okay. Our work with the definition is trying that in every adoption is trying to make a non-binding definition a binding one. With the adoption, we are doing something to say, I will use it. Mm-hmm. That's our concept. Argentina adopted the definition in June 2020, but we saw that in the CUJO University, something was happening in May 2019, more than a year before. We saw two incidents. One, a professor was lecturing with classic anti-Semitism, And in another place, a lady journalist used in her Twitter user was with the name of the university. She works for the university, and she was in discussions with a national representative. He's a Jew with modern anti-Semitism, saying he is a genocide, he is a Zionist, and Israel robbed from the Palestinians their land and everything like this. So we, together with Shimon Samuels, our director for international relationship, we denounced that there in the university was happening something with anti-Semitism. We did it in all the media and in a letter to the rector of the university. The rector ordered to open a summary, and they asked us why we are saying that this is anti-Semitism. So we said that the only pattern, the only objective pattern that the world has to say when there's something anti-Semitic happening or when not is the IHRA definition. Mm-hmm. And we showed the definition and say that every item was present in this case, in these two cases. 6 months later, the university resolved the case, saying that effectively were anti-Semitic these cases. They separated the professor. He will not give more lectures about his anti-Semitic thoughts. And this lady was forced to change her user in Twitter. She will not be related to the university.
Wow.
So when 6 months later, Argentina adopted the definition, this university has only to say, we already did it, so they adopted the definition and was the first university on doing this.
Did you receive any pushback from them in terms of any objections, whether it's from the university itself or perhaps the students, or was there, after you explained, did you find widespread support?
No. We said that this is an objective pattern, like you have the meter of the kilometer or the kilo. This is something not a Jewish organization, but an international organization that Argentina is full member, adopted this definition. So they did it. And after Argentina did it by law, this university was the first of many.
And I understand immediately following after that, the University of Buenos Aires adopted as well. And the Buenos Aires University is one of the most prestigious, not just in Argentina, but the world, with half a dozen Nobel laureates and I think 15 or 16 Argentine presidents as well. So what you did, I mean, it really set an incredible precedent. Have you seen this also used elsewhere across Latin America, specifically here in terms of perhaps in the academic and university world?
Okay, it's the third university in the continent after Autonomous University of Mexico and University of Sao Paulo in Brazil. We asked for the Superior Council for a letter that we are going to send to these big universities in other places in the continent to do the same. With them, we did as you have to do every time you want to do something. We were to the first, we did a letter to the council, and we said, Argentina adopted, the university has to do it, And they debated about this, and unanimous was the vote to accept it. 15 days after this happened, in the architecture faculty, one student, the classes were virtual by Zoom, and in graphic design, she has to redesign a vacuum cleaner. And her work was, she did something that seems to be a war cannon. She painted in green, and to strong this position that is like a war cannon, she put a swastika on it. The most important thing that happened, that the other students took photos, took screenshots, and they denounced this situation. The professor has been paralyzed. He don't know how to manage this situation. The only thing he said is, you have to be careful with iconic figures. And this arrived to the dean of the university, of the faculty, and they resolved that this girl has to do a program with more than 30 hours studying with us, with the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Latin America.
Wow.
We took her to the Buenos Aires Shoah Museum. They gave us a private tour in about 3 hours, and we spoke about what the swastika means, that is not a symbol of war, but other things. She saw pictures, movies. She saw, she read, she studied with us, and she wrote a letter to the faculty, to the dean, saying that was a marvelous opportunity. She was not punished, but an opportunity to learn, that she was confused, thinking that the swastika was a war symbol and not something that represents everything democracy is against. And so we finished the work with her, and was a nice opportunity to work. And the next step is to prepare a program for professors to know what to do in such situations, not to happen again. And will be some courses you have to, you can do if you want with us, the same things that she learned with us, obliged. So this was very nice, and this finished 15 days ago.
I'd say this is something amazing that I've noticed, that really Simon Wiesenthal Center is really a leader in this particular aspect, that in the last, say, half a year or a year or so, we've seen, especially in North America, a number of celebrities, sports stars or movie stars, you name it, cultural sort of stars, that they've made one kind of anti-Semitic remark or another, whether it's out of ignorance or ill will. And I know that some Wiesenthal Center, including your Los Angeles office, has reached out to them personally in order to try and educate them, because, as sort of perhaps with the example of the girl that you just spoke about, it's not necessarily out of hatred, but often it comes out of just plain ignorance or lack of understanding and information. So the fact that you have gone to that effort to try and teach them and to try and educate them, I think is something very important, because it's easy to jump and accuse someone, but to educate them, I think that goes one step further. It's something that, both you've done in this example and your colleagues is really, really important. It's something that for a lot of us that are fighting this to try and emulate and learn from.
When this happened, the first thing we talked with the dean was that we have to know her, and to know if we are in front of some bigot or someone who is ignorant. So with a bigot, you can work. You cannot work. If you have in front something that is a fanatic, so only punish him. We have no work to do with him. But this was an opportunity, so we took it. The other important thing I have to remark is the work we did with the Argentinian Football Association.
I wanted to ask you, because I think, as you said, that no conversation about Argentina is possible without a discussion about football. So I know that you know what you've done with the association, and then having where football is almost like a religion in so many ways, but you managed to successfully achieve the adoption of the IHRA definition. I know there are some instances of hatred directed especially against the predominantly Jewish team of Atlanta, where there are, I think, all sorts of very vile chants about Jews and soap and so forth. But so what you've done in that respect, I think, again, something that racism and anti-Semitism in the sporting field, which really should be, especially football, this bridge for peace and bringing people together, we're seeing so often is actually used for the exact opposite. So we'd love to hear perhaps from your experience and leadership in this regard, and how you managed to achieve this.
Okay, it's not the first time that the Simon Wiesenthal Center works in football, with football. Maybe 20 years ago, my predecessor worked with the Argentinian Football Association, and they managed to create this thing everyone in the world now knows, that when referees hear chants, xenophobic or anti-Semitic chants, they have to stop the game. This is global now, but this was invented by my predecessor and the Argentinian Football Association because of these things that happened with Atlanta, that is a team related to the Jewish community because of the neighbor. Where it is. 15 days after the adoption by the Argentinian Football Association of the definition, we had another incident. Before the pandemic, the last game before everything closed, one guy playing against Atlanta, a player was sent off, and he made anti-Semitic gestures to the people. He made the kippah, and he made a gesture like a brit milah, and he was punished with 8 suspension matches. After the pandemic, every team needed more their players because of the health situation, and they tried to arrange an amnesty to everyone. After they adopted the definition 15 days before, and we said, if you are going, this is not a simple thing that he was for rude play or this is something xenophobic or anti-Semitic, and they finally did the amnesty, but not to this player. So the sanction stayed, and this is something we think is important. At this moment, we are talking with the Professional Football League, that is an organization that gathered the teams of the first division and they are going to adopt the definition in a few days. And after this, every team will do it. So we can work with them about this.
Has there been, is it something that the players, from your perspective, have they readily endorsed and accepted this this move and the need for the definition?
It's the same with the university. In this case, I think that there's much ignorance and to mix everything. So we have to work with them, and if they adopt the definition, we can do it. So they are open to do it, so we can.
I have to say, of course, when Lionel Messi came here to Israel, you know, he was this superstar. Israel is a country that is in love with football, and certainly with Lionel Messi. So when he came here, it was to see him and the team was just something extraordinary, not just from the sporting prowess, but certainly from certainly from what it represents on a broader level as well. But it's amazing what you've done, both, you know, on an educational level, in terms of promoting and really leading the effort, not just Argentina, but Latin America, but also on the sporting fields, you know, and these are especially two areas where I think really focus on the next generation and the youth as well, that play sport, that follow sport, that go and study on campuses as well. So certainly, you know, you've provided an incredible tool for them and for those who work and operate in those environments, including the professors, the educators, the players. If you're talking about sport, you know, you've given them a tool to identify and go back to them and say, well, look, this is anti-Semitic. Look at the definition. It actually, as you said, you know, with the university, you ticked off all the boxes from there. So it's really quite incredible. I wanted to ask perhaps also a slight shift in terms of perhaps on the political perhaps element of relations between Israel, between Latin American countries. We know that, of course, Guatemala was they moved their embassy to Jerusalem. Honduras now too. There's a very close relationship between Israel and Brazil, which just the other day voted against one of the more egregiously one-sided resolutions of the Human Rights Council. You did speak about Chile, perhaps. What about the broader Latin America? What about, from your perspective, between Israel and Argentina? Mexico, of course, is an important country as well. How do you see Israel's perception also within the Latin American community today?
You have to separate a few things. Our countries in this region are like a pendulum. They go to left and right every time, and when the government is on the left, they think about the poor Palestinian people, and Israel is the bad guy, and so they vote in one place or the other place in this thing. But this has nothing to do with the relation between Israel and these countries. At this moment, Argentina, Mexico, as you said, Colombia has a great relationship with Israel. But I talked about Chile. Uruguay has a great relation with Israel. But in this vote, you know that there are other interests that goes, but the relation is really good, and the way people sees Israel is changing. Is changing the way Israel fought against the pandemic, against the COVID, is something they are seeing. But you know, I say that the most important marketing victory the bad guys had with us is that they said that the Israel is an apartheid state and is a very bad word, and it's very difficult to work against this when you have to explain someone with more than a sentence that this is not right. Not every time you got his attention. So but I think that the vision on Israel is changing in Latin America, not in Chile, not in Venezuela, but in other countries it's changing.
Okay. You're optimistic.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. If we have not more incidents, in war incidents, we can change. But when we have incidents in Middle East, immediately the media puts the eye on Israel. So, but this is not with all the media now. I'm seeing some changes in the region.
Incredible. Ariel, I wanted to thank you. I know we could talk for much longer as well, not just about the incredible work that you and the Wiesenthal Center is doing in combating anti-Semitism. Certainly about football, we can talk for a long time. But I did wish to thank you personally for your time and all your efforts. You know, what you're doing in Argentina is being looked at across the Latin America, and certainly something that I believe we can use as a model throughout really the world, in Europe and North America as well, and how to promote the definition of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, and how to work with academia, with sports stars, with celebrities as well. Those people that really have a tremendous influence, especially on the younger generation. So what you have done in that regard in Argentina and beyond in the region is something that is incredibly appreciative. It certainly, I think, fits the very definition of a success story and a successful victory for us, for those who care about fighting intolerance, fighting hatred and racism, and of course anti-Semitism. So from myself personally and from the International Legal Forum, I wanted to say thank you so much for joining us on this episode of How We Fought Against. To everyone else, please make sure to follow us on Facebook under the International Legal Forum. This podcast will be available very shortly on YouTube, on Amazon Music, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Google, Podbean, and of course our website as well. For those of you that are not following yet, it is ilfngo.org. If you are enjoying our podcast, and I hope very much you do so, please do rate it and share it. Once again, Ariel, thank you so much for your time and all your efforts across Argentina and Latin America in fighting anti-Semitism and promoting peace and tolerance. So thank you from all of us once again, and thank you for your time.
No, thank you.